I would say that corsets and moaning and structure is something that every bride is asking right now.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have so many like requests for low back, sheer. This is going away a bit. And I feel like the corset, not necessarily a drop waist, but corset, and to just feel that structure is really flattering for any kind of silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's going to stay around for a while.
You are listening to The Clear Cut Podcast. I'm your host, Olivia Landau, founder of The Clear Cut.
Welcome to The Clear Cut Podcast. I'm so excited to sit down with Rime Arodaky. She is a wedding dress designer and Greg Fink, wedding photographer, and her husband. This is our first couples podcast and also both people in the wedding industry. So I'm really excited to have you both. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All the way from Paris and straight from your honeymoon.
Absolutely.
I would love to learn a little bit more about both of your backgrounds, a little bit professionally. Like, how did you get into the wedding space? And of course, is that what brought you both together romantically?
Definitely. So I'm a wedding dress designer. I have launched my brand about 12 years ago in Paris. I launched my brand obviously because the market was very different at the time. And obviously everything seemed so classic at the time. So I launched my brand in a way that I wanted to bring fashion into bridal. I came from the fashion world. I used to work for fashion brands such as Uniqueness, which is quite a famous brand in Paris. And my friends were getting married at the time and couldn't find anything that suits them. So obviously, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and getting into bridal made sense because it was like a blank market. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to really bring that fashion sense and attitude to it. So here I was, yes.
And I went to your show last year for Bridal Fashion Week, and everything was so unique, so beautiful, and it felt very like fresh. So it's true, like a lot of wedding dresses that you see are very repetitive, but I think it's great to have like that fresh, fashion forward perspective.
Yes, I feel like we don't need to change ourselves when we become a bride, and I see so many stylish women getting dressed in their everyday life and daring things, and why not in bridal? Like, why do you have to change that perception of yourself and not play with fashion and, you know, stay true to who you are and even be a bit bolder sometimes?
Definitely. And what about you? How did you get into the wedding photography space?
So wedding photography for me is actually my second life because so I started shooting weddings 15 years ago, first from France, but I come from a business background. So I used to be a marketing and sales executive for Procter & Gamble. I did that for like 10 years, but photography has always been my passion. So 15 years ago, I decided to go for a career into wedding photography. Started to shoot my first weddings for friends. And that's how we met with Rime, through the wedding industry.
So, like, how was the first meeting? Like, tell me about that.
So we actually met the first time on Facebook. I saw his profile with a camera. I thought it was very cute. But we were both in relationships at the time. And we actually met at a wedding fair. He was starting his business. I had been around for a couple of years, but only in Paris. And I was just showcasing my designs at the time. And he was trying to also build his portfolio. And he approached me by saying that he was interested in wearing some dresses. But we were just friends at the time and for about 2 years. So
amazing. And now you just got married. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How did the proposal go down? I know that you guys have been in a long-term relationship, just got married, but how did he like pop the question?
That's a very good question because actually we did everything upside down. So it's been the longest COVID postponement because we got married 2 weeks ago. So July 30th, 2024, when the original date was August 5th of 2020.
Wow.
And we've been engaged since October of 2018.
Okay.
So,
it's like 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years ago. Interesting thing is that I proposed in New York the day before a runway show at the Bridal Week back in 2018.
Yes.
I was not sure back then it was a good idea because she was under a lot of pressure because of the show, but I still went for it because New York City has such a special place in our hearts.
Yes.
So it was important for me to do it here.
Where in New York did you do it?
Rooftop refinery.
Oh, nice. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So now you're back.
I was not expecting
celebrating. So then how did you, over the past 6 years, like, because you guys are in the wedding industry, how did you go about planning this wedding?
Yeah, well, for 4 years, obviously nothing happened much because of COVID, and we bought a house in Provence in the meantime, and it was a new project that was hold a very special place in our heart at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went to Bali back again after COVID, we just fell in love back again with the place, and we were like, okay, let's do it. We need to get into wedding organization and planning again. And so we just did it and called back our planner at the time. She was French, based in Bali. And
in terms of planning, what was interesting is that I see so many weddings from the inside, because being a photographer, you just attend every moment of the day.
Mm-hmm.
When Rime, she designed the dresses, so she's very much like her head of the event. So she had the ideas, and I was more like on the execution side, saying this works, this doesn't work, because I see that every weekend. So it was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was a lot into the design and the aesthetic, and he was a lot into, okay, what can we bring into the events and the 3-day celebration
in terms of moments,
music. And rhythm also for the ceremony and everything.
So were you inspired by like seeing weddings that you photographed in the past and taking some of those elements?
Absolutely. I was very inspired, but I also realized there are things that don't really work.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important for us was just to be ourselves. It sounds very cliche. The photographer who photographed our wedding is a good friend of us and told us, you're the coolest clients I've ever had, because I don't know, we just wanted to enjoy the moment. We were not under any pressure, obviously. We already have kids.
Mm-hmm.
We are in our 40s. So, I mean, the wedding for us was just a celebration of our love. It was not something for the status or anything. So it was just like pure fun and joy and love for 3 days.
And I feel like both seeing brides or grooms or families getting into the pressure of getting married also taught us a lot about what to do and not to do.
Right.
So Greg was obviously sharing a lot of his experience, saying, okay, don't get into this because it's going to be a waste of money or waste of time. And I was just not a bridezilla. Like I was even cool about the fashion, about how will I look, or it was.
And it actually started with the wedding party. It was only 45 guests.
Oh, wow.
Because it was the same for us. We only wanted to have people who are very close to us, whether it's family or friends. And we didn't want to invite any people just to invite people
Yes.
to our wedding.
So what were some of your like favorite moments of your wedding that you were like special?
Oh my God. Oh, to me, I will start is the ceremony, because as most of people think, like, I don't get into weddings much. Like, I don't go to weddings much when he does. So it was very new to me. And obviously, I was not expecting this kind of emotions. And the ceremony, obviously, with our children and families, him by the cliff and the sea and the music, because we had hired an Australian band to play music during the ceremony, was such an emotional and key moment about it.
So what she doesn't say is that I asked her to design the ceremony, so she didn't know anything that would happen during this very moment.
Oh,
It's
wow.
all a surprise.
I told her
So you really weren't a bridezilla.
So I told her you can do anything about the 3 days, but can I please design what's happening during the ceremony, because I see ceremony every weekends. So I hired this band from Australia. We were playing acoustic guitar. And the fun fact about this is that on a first date 10 years ago, I was a bit tipsy at a bar, and I told her, you and I one day will get married on a cliff in Bali.
It's a true story.
On the sound of Florence with the machine,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
which is our favorite band.
Mm-hmm.
And what was funny is that 10 years after, we're on a cliff in Bali, and this guitarist is playing Florence with the machine.
Oh my God.
So when she walked on the aisle and she didn't know about that, she was crying so much to a point where I thought there had been like a problem. Is everything fine?
It's true.
I'm like, maybe there's a problem with the dog at home or something, because she's such a dog lover, and she was just like overwhelmed with the emotion.
It's true. It's true. What is he not saying also is that when back in the days he told me that, like, oh, you and I will get married on a cliff in Bali. I was like, what is he saying? Like, I hadn't been in Bali ever, so I was wondering why was he mentioning this island. And I think I was overjoyed and like just overwhelmed by all the emotions.
And to get back to your first question, I'm sorry, my favorite moment. So my daughter, she's 12 years old. She's living with us. Rime has known her since she was 2. So Rime and her are very close. And she threw a speech at the ceremony, and nobody knew what she was going to say. And she's only 12. And the speech was so emotional that everybody was just like dying.
Yeah, it was like the attendance was all crying and pouring out. So we were all a mess, but it was good.
So this was my favorite.
Yeah.
I love that. How, as a wedding dress designer, did you pick your looks for the big day or weekend?
Yeah, everyone thinks it's easy because I have so much choice and opportunities.
No, it makes it so hard.
Yeah, it was hard. Like, the first thing is I didn't want to show anything to anyone and didn't ask anyone's opinion because I know so many brides get confused about this. And as a bride myself, I could have had so many opinions. Oh, this is you, or you should go there, or you should go there. And even my mom, who knows I'm a bridal designer, could be a bit like annoying sometimes about giving her opinion. So the most important to me was not to ask anyone's opinion and believe in my gut feel, follow my instinct. And obviously I know what suits me or doesn't. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is that I know trends come and go, but when we got engaged in 2018, I already knew what I wanted. And this didn't change much. Like, even when I got into wedding planning back again this year, everything I wanted was kind of the same, and except for some details. But the main dresses were exactly what I always envisioned. So,
did you design like custom dresses for your wedding?
Yes, okay. Absolutely. I know I'm going to put them in a capsule collection to give access to them. Yeah. But yes, I custom everything.
And can you share a bit about it or not yet?
Yes, if it's posted and live after the photos, it's all fine. Yeah. So we had obviously 2 weddings because in Paris, City Hall is very important. So we kind of celebrated City Hall as well at the Crillon Rosewood Hotel.
Yeah, beautiful.
So for this event, I had 2 looks. One was a high-low dress with a corset. And the second look was more of a like very flowy pleated jumpsuit with scarf. So it was very urban feel, very city chic, very sophisticated and very structured. Whether in Bali, I was more for flowy, ethereal look because we were like by the sea, and I always wanted that kind of mermaid chic vision. So yeah.
Amazing. What inspires like your designs, whether it's for your dresses yourself or for your collections?
Women in general, their attitude, their sass, their personalities. I feel like women are so full of, like we're all so different and interesting and complex. So I feel like just looking at women in my everyday life, even if I sit on a terrace, like in a terrace on a cafe in Paris, and just watching them go by, or even in New York, like women are so stylish and strong. And I just love to get inspired by them in my everyday design. They're the best.
Amazing. And how would you describe your like photography style and what inspires you?
I think my style has evolved through the years. I will say that I'm looking for a very elegant and timeless style. I think wedding photography needs to be timeless because you need to see these photos. You need to look at these photos today, but your kids and grandkids will be looking at them. So they need to be timeless, but I try to bring like a fashion twist to it. Obviously, I've been working with Rime on a collection for like almost 10 years now. So her style has influenced my eye. And living in Paris, I also have fashion clients. I work a lot for Elisa. I've shot a campaign for Balenciaga. So I try to keep this timeless and elegance into my photography, but bring like a fashion twist. And clients love that right now.
So for like a bride who's planning a wedding, like what advice would you both give to them? Like in terms of shopping for wedding dresses or picking out the right photographers or vendors?
As for wedding dresses, I've said that a lot already on other podcasts, but I will repeating myself because I feel like brides get so confused. I feel like for wedding dresses, they should curate 2 or 3 places they really want to go to and not go all over the place to just try everything that's on earth. Because I feel like today with all the opportunities and brands that you get, you have the FOMO, your fear of missing out anything or any trend, whether you should just stick to who you are and go for exactly like what suits you and what feels like you and not listen to the outside noise. So curate 2 to 3 places, go to check this. I would recommend maybe to do these fittings alone at the beginning. And when you found like a couple of, like maybe 2 or 3 dresses that really speaks to your heart, then you can bring your closest people in and ask their opinion if it's really important to you.
Mm-hmm.
But only when you got at the end of the road, not when you're at the very beginning, because it's so confusing, so overwhelming. And
I agree. I feel like sometimes the more options you see, the harder it is to like make a decision.
Absolutely.
For the photography part, I think what's important is to really understand the work of your photographer. There's so much noise right now with Instagram, and you can find like zillions of wedding photographers online in like 2 seconds. And I think one of the big mistakes clients make is that they will trust 2 or 3 photos that they see on a photographer's grid. So first, longevity matters. We have photographers with 2 years of experience, some others with 20 years. There's a good reason why they're still here after 20 years. So that's one of the reasons that can explain the budget difference between one or the other. But the very advice I will give is please ask your photographer a full gallery. You want to see how a photographer capture a wedding from rehearsal dinner, welcome party, getting ready, portrait, candidates, you name it, party shots. And it needs to be complete, because it's going to be very easy once again to extract 1 or 2 great photos from like a coverage, but the work needs to be consistent. So this is my very advice. You need to ask for full galleries and look at full gallery of the wedding photographer.
What are some things that like brides or couples, like mistakes that they make when choosing like the wrong type of photographer? Like what are questions they should ask their photographer before they decide?
That's a very good question. So the first one to me is experience. Mm-hmm. For how many years have you been shooting? How many weddings have you shot? Because my goal as a photographer is to become a better photographer on my next wedding than I was on the last one. And you always have like a forte or something you can improve. I tend to be great with details and portraits, but I know that I have to get better with candidates or party shots, for example. That's just an example. So a mistake we can make is that we can have conception. Like just because we have seen a photographer on Vogue, being featured on Vogue, we're going to be like, oh, he has this fashion twist. Just make sure he has it. Mm-hmm. Just make sure to check like 2, 3, 4, 5 weddings that he's shot through the years in different locations and make sure that the style is consistent. Because once again, too much noise right now and lots of different trends. And to me, we have to be careful with the trends, because what's a trend today won't be one in 10 years. And your kids might look at your wedding photos and say, oh, they're dated. And you don't want that.
What are some of like your favorite and least favorite parts about working in the same industry together? I know you're in very different parts
yes.
of the industry, but...
Yeah, actually, yes and no, because for 6 years, we've now been business partners on Rime's business. Mm-hmm. So coming from business, I kind of take care of the professional part of Rime Arodaky as well on top of my job as a photographer. The main challenge actually is working together, not working in the same industry.
No, working in the same industry is actually very inspiring, mm-hmm. and it lifts each other up. So we're always very eager to share our experience, stories, anecdotes, you name it. But working in our everyday life can be challenging sometimes, because he's a creative, but he's also a businessman. I'm more of a creative, but the role that he has in my company is more like business. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it shuts down his creativity a bit. And it's hard to balance both and be good at both and have the excitement and fulfillment for both things.
Yeah, we honestly don't see any constraints in working in the same industry, because we travel a lot together for the work. Mm-hmm. Both of us are passionate about our jobs. So it's just like lifting each other up. It's more sometimes working together. We just talk about that all day, all night.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, you never stop.
I know you understand that. So you never stop talking about like business challenges. And as she mentioned, I'm the one managing the finance and she's the one spending the money. So this comes with some challenges.
That could be the bad part, but the good part is what he said. The traveling, meeting new people together, connecting with people together, and doing what we're doing right now is so exciting and fulfilling as well.
Do you have advice for couples that are thinking about getting into business together?
Set a boundaries. I mean, that's going to be an advice because I don't respect that at all. But if you can do it, do it.
I would say also know who your partner is. Like, know who he is and what he can or cannot be. Like, don't have expectations that is beyond what he is or can give to you. So you won't be disappointed if he's that type of person. Just know who you're dealing with. That I think that's the key. And you don't have like crazy expectations about the other person.
That's a very good point. At the beginning, it's been 6 years that we've been working together very closely. I was kind of trying to change her. Like, she can't manage money, so I'm going to teach her that. And I think there's just a point where you have to know what's your forte, what's hers, and respect that, so that you can be complementary. So yeah, this is good.
Awesome. I want to play like a small, like fun game for bridal trends, if that's okay. So it's just going to be quick fire questions, like in and out. And like, you can elaborate on it if you want. So, are these in or out? Drop waist wedding dresses.
In.
Tulle.
Out.
Out. Capes instead of veils.
In, but not for everyone.
Short veils.
Totally in.
Separate piece dresses like crop tops and skirts.
In, but not for everyone as well.
Okay. Exposed boning corset.
In.
Asymmetrical necklines.
Out. But always out, because I feel like this is the most challenging cut for brides. Like, they come for it, but they never dare for it. Like, it's nice on photos and for editorials, but that's not always the winner.
Okay. Plunging necklines.
Not much.
Gloves.
In.
What about those sleeves that are like not attached, you know?
Was in kind of a couple years ago, a little bit going out.
Okay. Colorful wedding dresses.
In, but depends on the color.
Mini wedding dresses.
Oh, totally in, especially for a second look.
And last but not least, thigh high slits.
Was in 1 or 2 years ago, a little less right now.
Amazing. Thank you. So what do you think are the hottest bridal trends like right now that might last if you're a 2025 bride?
I would say that corsets and boning and structure is something that every bride is asking right now. We used to have so many like requests for low back, sheer. This is going away a bit. And I feel like the corset, not necessarily a drop waist, but corset, and to just feel that structure is really flattering for any kind of silhouette. So I feel like that's going to stay around for a while.
And more of like, we saw like, I think I noticed like so many lace dresses and now like a little bit less. Are you noticing that too?
I feel like lace is coming back.
Okay.
Actually, it was a bit away for the last 2 years. I would say that plain dresses were the winners.
Yeah.
And now I feel like texture is coming back a lot, like pleats, any texture, even like jacquard. So I feel like this is coming back again. And we were in a very extra minimal trend.
Yeah.
And I feel like maximalism is going to come back.
Great. Yeah. I'm here for it.
Me too.
What are some of your favorite like celebrity wedding dresses that you've seen?
First one is Caroline Bassett Kennedy. I think this is absolutely timeless. I really, really loved Hailey Bieber dress.
Yeah.
I felt that she was stunning. And more recently, I don't know. I need to think about it. Like, yeah, these are the two that comes to my mind. Honestly.
Yeah. What have you seen Olivia Culpo's dress?
Yeah.
That was like the minimal one.
Very minimal. Yeah. I felt it was a bit safe. Whether she's so stylish, like that's the kind of bride I feel like she's so stylish in her everyday life and bold and daring and sexy. And I know she wanted to express something else on her wedding day, but I was expecting a bit of a more of a fashion look.
It's actually interesting because that's also something I realize with my clients. Once again, my style being the fashion twist, I tend to attract very fashionable clients from New York City. And when I meet them, they're like so fashionable. And I usually do destination weddings that are like 3-4 days. And my clients will take risk on the rehearsal dinner, on the welcome party, on the brunch. But when it comes to the day off, it's going to be very classic and very traditional. So there's a big thing where you don't take risk on the actual wedding dress, which is something that Rime tries to.
Yeah, I would say educate our bride in terms of, okay, you can be timeless and so elegant, but also dare a bit like something.
Do you think people do that and want to be less risky on the wedding day because they're nervous that their wedding dress is like too trendy of the
Yes.
moment.
Also because of others' opinions.
Okay.
They're afraid to...
They will be judged.
Yeah, they will be judged. Like there's this status thing saying, okay, if my friends get married in a full high neck lace dress or big puffy skirt, I need to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go the other way, I'm going to be judged or they're going to think I'm crazy or whatever. And I feel you should just go for what you want. And sometimes when I see brides doing something different, I'm so excited because it just shows the way, it opens the way. And I've tried to do this for 12 years, but there's still a lot of work to do.
What can we like look forward to for like your new bridal collection?
Very romantic, very romantic, but still bold, still effortless, and yeah, fashionable, fashion forward in a way, and at the same time a bit classic as well, a bit more classic than usual. Yeah.
Awesome. And I know you have a showroom here in New York, right?
Yes.
Where can people like shop for your dresses,
Yes.
like try things on?
Of course. So our shop is on West Broadway in Soho. We opened it last October, and obviously you can shop our main collections. You can also do custom, and if you're more into ready to wear, you can directly go to the New York store, or you can even shop online because we have like on stock collection available.
Amazing. And what are things that we can look out for both of you in the near future?
What do you think? Your turn.
I must say that the past, as we mentioned, we've been engaged for like 6 years, but the past 6 years have been a lot with the pandemic and everything. So it was important for us to close this chapter with the wedding. And it's funny, the wedding cake, there was a sentence on it that said worth the wait. Because everybody was aware that the wedding has been postponed for so long. So we were excited to do it, but close this chapter of the pandemic, of the postponement.
Yes.
So I know that being entrepreneurs, and you know that better than us, especially as a couple, comes with its challenges. So we're looking for a brighter future because, the past years have been complicated for everyone, especially in the event industry. We've been doing great projects through these years, like buying a house, opening this showroom, but we're not looking forward to just do business as we were doing before the pandemic.
Yeah, and I know it was crazy with the bridal industry with the pandemic, and then there was a huge, like, everyone was getting married.
Yes.
Like, what do you predict for, like, the next couple years in the bridal industry?
Oh, I wish I had this crystal ball. 2022 was obviously a very big year for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about it.
Same for engagements.
Yes. I feel like the next couple of years will be, I think, from what I see and perceive and just feel, things are changing. Like the new bride and new couples are aiming for something different. The habits are changing. The way they buy or choose their vendors is changing. So we also need, being there and being around for a while, we also need to observe and just get that change. And I feel like, as you said, there's a lot of noise and a zillion options for anything, dress, photographer, you name it. So I feel like the challenge will be to stand out in this crowd and stay true to ourselves. That's what.
Yeah, and I will say that what's been frustrating in the past years was that before the pandemic, there were patterns. You will get engaged at Thanksgiving, you will pick your dress before Christmas, you will book your photographer 6 months in advance. Yeah. I know it's just crazy. We have clients booking me 18 months in advance, some others 2 weeks in advance.
Same for us, same for the dress.
And as business owners, it's just different patterns. And as Rime said, we have to learn, we have to step back, we have to observe again. There's a theory that says that because people didn't meet during COVID, there's going to be less weddings in the coming month. I don't know about that. But what's for sure is that the habits have changed. So we need to adapt. And if pandemic has learned me something is that as entrepreneurs, you need to adapt just like constantly. And I always say, Rime, I have no idea if I'm going to book next year. It's always like challenging yourself. And so, yeah.
Each new year is different. Each
Every
new
year
season
is different.
I totally agree.
Yes.
There's like less, it's not as cyclical, it's not as predictable as it used to be.
No.
What are like some of these new like patterns or trends that you are picking up for like brides?
In terms of fashion, I know that they used to be, the brides used to be very loyal. Like they picked a brand and they shop everything at this brand. Now it's a bit more challenging in terms that they're going to pick you for 1 or 2 looks, but then they're going to go all over the place and have all these options. And same again, bridal fashion was a bit tacky and not interesting for fashion brand, like 3-4 years before. Now everyone has a bridal capsule and white collection. So even the fashion brands that used to say that bridal is not interesting. So as a bridal brand, like we only do that, I feel like we should just, like kind of have these bridal journey outfits and just go for the thing that's gonna make their heart melt away.
And I think now at least a lot of brides, not just even for like their wedding weekend, but like all the events leading up need like white outfits.
Yeah, there are more opportunities, which is kind of interesting because they used to have maybe 2-3 looks. Now they're going to go for 5 to 6, even 7 sometimes. They just buy and just curate all these outfits, which is great opportunities for us. Yeah. So I feel like we just need to get into it.
Totally. So where can people follow you guys, see your work, shop, all of that?
They can find us on our Instagram at Rime Arodaky or Pinterest, which is the same. And obviously they can also shop online at rime-arodaky.com and also obviously come to the Paris or New York showroom.
And for me, it's mostly Instagram at Greg Fink, my website, gregfink.com, with all my portfolio. As I mentioned, I'm happy to send full galleries.
Full galleries, yes. Amazing. Thank you guys so much for coming today. This is awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for listening. You can follow us at The Clear Cut on Instagram and TikTok or shop at theclearcut.co.